Every year, Americans hand pest control companies billions of dollars to spray poisons they could practically replicate with stuff already sitting in the kitchen. Here is the wild part. Some of these dollar store tricks don't just match the pros, they beat them, and scientists have the studies to prove it. Grab a notepad, because these 13 hacks are about to make that Exterminator invoice look ridiculous. Let's get into it. Number 1. Diatomaceous earth. Let's start with the one professional exterminators quietly use themselves. Diatomaceous earth, or DE, looks like a bag of harmless white flour, and food-grade D is so safe you can literally eat a spoonful of it. But to a bug, it's a nightmare made of glass. D is nothing more than the fossilized shells of ancient microscopic algae called diatoms, and under a microscope, those shells look like millions of tiny razor blades. Here's the crazy part. Unlike a chemical spray, DE doesn't poison insects. It kills them mechanically. When a roach, ant, flea, or bedbug crawls through the powder, those sharp fossil edges score and scratch the waxy coating that seals moisture into the bug's exoskeleton. Then the porous shells go to work like a sponge, actively soaking up the insect's protective oils and fats. Stripped of its waterproof armor, the bug simply dries out and dies within 1 to 3 days. And because it's a physical killer, not a chemical one, insects can never build up resistance to it, something they do to store-bought sprays all the time. Just dust a thin layer along baseboards, under appliances, and in cracks. One catch, it only works while dry, so reapply after any moisture. Number 2. Boric acid and sugar bait. If you've got cockroaches, this 2-ingredient recipe is the closest thing to a home-brewed nuke that exists. Mix 1 part boric acid with about 3 parts powdered sugar, add a little water to form a paste, and tuck small dabs in the cracks and corners where roaches travel. The sugar is the bait that lures them in. The boric acid is the assassin. Here's how it works, and it's genuinely brilliant. Roaches are obsessive groomers. When one walks across the powder, it clings to their legs and body, and the moment they clean themselves, they swallow it. Once inside, boric acid hits them with a triple punch. It acts as a stomach poison that wrecks their digestive system. It scrambles their nervous system, and it abrades their exoskeleton so they dehydrate. But now for the truly wild part. Cockroaches are cannibals. When one poisoned roach crawls back to the nest and dies, its buddies eat the corpse, and the boric acid is still clinging to it. That means a single dab of this stuff can ripple through an entire colony, killing roaches you'll never even see. It's a chain reaction the bugs carry out for you. Keep it as a barely visible thin layer though. Pile it too thick and roaches just walk around it. And keep it away from food surfaces, kids, and pets. Number 3. Catnip. You know catnip as the plant that turns house cats into blissed-out goofballs. What almost nobody knows is that the exact same oil that hypnotizes your cat is, according to actual laboratory research, roughly 10 times more effective at repelling mosquitoes than DEET, the gold standard chemical in nearly every bug spray on the shelf. That finding came out of Iowa State University and was presented to the American Chemical Society. The active compound is called nepetalactone, and it takes about 1/10 as much of it to keep mosquitoes away compared to DEET. And it gets better. The same research group had earlier discovered that catnip repels cockroaches too. More recent field studies have even turned catnip oil into skin lotions that held their own against DEET in real-world testing. So while your neighbor is coating their skin in synthetic chemicals, you could be growing a scraggly little mint family weed in the backyard for pennies. To use it, crush fresh leaves and rub them on exposed skin, scatter them around patio seating, or simmer them into an oil. Just remember, it's a repellent, not a killer. It convinces the bugs to go bother somebody else rather than dropping them on the spot. For a plant most people associate with lazy cats, that's a shockingly powerful resume. Number 4. Neem oil. Neem oil is pressed from the seeds of a tree native to India, and gardeners who know about it treat it like liquid gold. Why? Because it doesn't just kill pests, it essentially puts them out of business as a species. The magic molecule is called azadirachtin, and calling it insect birth control isn't much of an exaggeration. Here's what makes it so devious. When insects are exposed to azadirachtin, it interferes with the hormones that control molting and growth. Young larvae can't mature into adults. It also acts as a powerful anti-feedant, meaning treated leaves suddenly taste so repulsive that bugs stop eating and starve. And on top of all that, it reduces the ability of adult pests to lay viable eggs. So instead of one dramatic knockdown, Neem quietly collapses the entire life cycle. No more larvae, no more feeding, no more next generation. It works against a huge range of garden villains: aphids, whiteflies, mealybugs, spider mites, and more. To use it, mix a couple teaspoons of neem oil with a quart of warm water and a single drop of dish soap to help it blend. Then spray your plants thoroughly, coating the undersides of leaves. Spray in the early evening rather than under hot midday sun, which also helps spare the bees and ladybugs you actually want around. A bottle costs a few bucks and lasts forever. Number 5. Dish soap spray. The bottle of dish soap next to your sink is secretly one of the most effective insecticides you own, and it costs a fraction of what a specially formulated garden spray does. Mix 1 to 2 teaspoons of plain liquid dish soap into a quart of water. Pour it in a spray bottle, and you've got a pest killer that works on physics, not poison. Soft-bodied garden pests like aphids, spider mites, whiteflies, and mealybugs all rely on a thin, waxy outer layer to hold their moisture in and keep their cells intact. When the soap solution hits them, the fatty acids penetrate and dissolve that waxy coating, causing their cells to leak and the bug to rapidly dry out. As a bonus, the soap coats their bodies and clogs their spiracles, the tiny holes along their sides that insects breathe through, so they also suffocate. It's a 1-2 punch of dehydration and drowning in air. There's one important trick: it only works on contact while it's still wet, and it leaves no lasting residue, so you have to actually hit the bugs directly and reapply as new ones show up. It's also picky. It wrecks soft-bodied pests, but does nothing to hard-shelled beetles. Oh, and if a wasp is dive-bombing your picnic, a direct blast of the same soapy water clogs its breathing pores and drops it fast. No expensive wasp spray required. Number 6. Used coffee grounds. Slugs and snails can shred a garden overnight, and the store sells expensive pellets to stop them. But your morning coffee habit already produces the ammunition to fight back, because caffeine, it turns out, is a natural nerve poison that plants evolved specifically to kill pests. This isn't folklore. Researchers publishing in the journal Nature found that solutions of caffeine were highly effective at both repelling and outright killing slugs and snails. A 1 to 2% caffeine spray wiped out the majority of slugs it touched, and in some tests actually outperformed the standard commercial product. The reason it works so well on these particular critters is fascinating. Most insects have a waxy, water-repelling shell that caffeine can't get through, but slugs and snails glide on a trail of watery mucus that lets the water-soluble caffeine soak right in. Once inside, it destabilizes their heart rate and does them in. So instead of tossing your used grounds, brew them into your pest control arsenal. Sprinkle a barrier of grounds around vulnerable plants, or steep leftover grounds into a strong coffee tea, let it cool, and spray it onto the leaves and soil where slugs congregate. Even the caffeine plants themselves figured this out long ago. Coffee and tea produce the stuff partly to defend against bugs. You're just borrowing their strategy for free, 1 cup at a time. Number 7. The beer trap. Here's one that sounds like a joke and works like a charm. The humble beer trap for slugs and snails. Sink a small container, a yogurt cup, tuna can, or old margarine tub into the soil so the rim sits right at ground level. Fill it with an inch or two of cheap beer and let it sit overnight. By morning, you will find the slugs that would have feasted on your lettuce floating in the cup instead. But here's the detail almost everyone gets wrong. Slugs are not actually attracted to the alcohol. What lures them in is the smell of fermenting yeast, and the gases it releases, which to a slug mimics the scent of rotting, decaying plant matter, their favorite meal. That's why budget beers with strong yeast content actually work better than your fancy craft IPA. They pick up the aroma from several feet away, crawl toward it, tumble over the rim into the liquid, and cannot climb back out of the smooth sides, so they drown. Even better, you do not need beer at all. A homemade brew of 1 cup warm water, a teaspoon of sugar, and half a teaspoon of active dry yeast produces the exact same irresistible fermentation scent for practically nothing. Set out 3 to 5 traps across a problem area, refresh every couple of days once the scent fades, and you have round-the-clock slug patrol for the price of pocket change. Number 8. Salt or borax on the carpet. If you've ever battled fleas, you know the frustration. You treat the pet, you see fewer fleas, and then 2 weeks later, they're back with a vengeance. Here's the brutal truth exterminators charge you to explain. The adult fleas biting your ankles are only about 5% of the problem. The other 95% are eggs, larvae, and pupae buried deep in your carpet fibers, invisible and waiting. That's exactly where cheap household powders come in. Both plain table salt and borax act as desiccants, meaning they pull moisture out of anything they touch. Sprinkled into carpet, they dry out and kill flea larvae, and hungry larvae that nibble the borax while feeding on carpet debris get poisoned from the inside too. Studies on borate powders have shown over 90% reduction in flea larvae in treated carpets, with the effect lasting weeks. To do it, vacuum first, then sprinkle a thin, even layer of salt or borax, and use a brush or broom to work it deep into the fibers. Leave it for 12 to 24 hours, then vacuum thoroughly, and immediately dump the vacuum bag or canister outside, since the vibration actually triggers hidden pupae to hatch right into your trap. One serious warning: borax can be harmful to pets and small children if ingested or inhaled, so keep them away during treatment, and never dust it on pet bedding. Number 9. Bay leaves. Open your spice rack and you'll find a weapon against one of the most infuriating kitchen invaders, the pantry weevil. You know the scene? You reach for the flour to bake, and it's crawling with tiny bugs. The fix might already be 2 feet away. Bay leaves, the same ones you toss into soups and stews, are a natural pantry pest repellent, and they cost next to nothing. The secret is a compound in the leaves called eucalyptol, also known as cineole, the same aromatic oil that gives bay its strong, camphor-like scent. To us, it smells pleasant and savory. To weevils, pantry moths, and other grain-raiding beetles, it smells like a keep-out sign, and they steer clear of it. Generations of home cooks swear that dropping a couple of leaves into the flour, rice, or oatmeal bin keeps their dry goods pest-free. And remarkably, the flavor doesn't transfer to the food. Now, an honest note that keeps this trick working: bay leaves repel bugs, they don't kill them, so they're a shield, not a sword. Your first line of defense should always be storing dry goods in thick, airtight glass or hard plastic containers that weevils physically can't chew into. Then tuck a fresh bay leaf inside or tape a few along the shelves and inside cupboard doors as backup. Swap them out every few weeks because once you can't smell the leaf, neither can the bugs. Number 10. Oil of lemon eucalyptus. If you want a mosquito repellent that actually competes with DEET but comes from a plant, there is exactly one the experts endorse, and most people have never heard of it. It is called oil of lemon eucalyptus, or OLE, and it is the only plant-based repellent that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention officially recommends alongside DEET and picaridin. The active ingredient is a compound abbreviated PMD, and according to the CDC, when OLE was tested against United States mosquitoes, it provided protection similar to repellents containing DEET. Some products give you up to around 6 hours of coverage against the very mosquitoes that spread diseases like West Nile and Zika. That is a serious result for something derived from a tree. But here is the crucial catch that trips people up and could ruin the whole trick. Refined oil of lemon eucalyptus is not the same thing as the cheap lemon eucalyptus essential oil you might grab off a shelf. The raw essential oil has not been tested or registered as a repellent, and the CDC specifically does not recommend it. Only the refined, PMD-rich OLE actually delivers. So read the label and look for OLE or PMD as the active ingredient. One more note, it is generally not recommended for children under 3. Used right, though, it is proof that natural can genuinely go toe-to-toe with the strongest stuff in the store. Number 11. White vinegar. Ever notice how ants march in perfect single-file lines across your counter like they're following an invisible road? They are. Ants navigate by laying down chemical scent trails called pheromones. One scout finds your sugar bowl, lays a trail back, and the whole colony follows the highway, which means the cheapest bottle of white vinegar in your cabinet is secretly a weapon that erases their entire map. When you wipe down counters, floors, and entry points with a 50-50 mix of vinegar and water, the acidity dissolves and overwhelms those pheromone trails. Suddenly, the scouts have no path to follow and no way to guide the colony to your kitchen. It won't kill the ants, but it cuts their supply lines and sends them wandering, often enough to make them give up on your house entirely. Reapply wherever you see them regrouping, and vinegar has a second pest control trick up its sleeve. Fruit flies. If those clouds of tiny flies are hovering over your bananas, pour a little apple cider vinegar into a cup, add a single drop of dish soap, and set it out. The fermented fruit smell of the vinegar is irresistible to them. And here's the clever bit. The drop of soap breaks the surface tension of the liquid, so instead of landing and sipping, the flies sink and drown. 2 everyday pests, $1 bottle. Number 12. Cedar. Before mothballs and their eye-watering chemical stink existed, people protected their wool sweaters and linens with something far more pleasant, cedar wood. And it wasn't just an old wives' tale. Cedar genuinely works against clothes moths thanks to natural oils in the wood, especially a compound called cedral. The scent that we find warm and woodsy is a powerful repellent to adult clothes moths, discouraging them from settling in and laying their eggs in your fabrics in the first place. At high enough concentrations, cedar oil can even kill the young larvae that do the actual damage by munching holes in your clothes. That's why cedar chests, closet planks, hangers, and little blocks of the stuff have protected wardrobes for centuries, no toxic fumes required. There is one honest limitation worth knowing. Cedar's bug-fighting power lives in its aromatic oils, and over time, as the surface of the wood dries out and oxidizes, that scent fades, and so does its effectiveness. The fix is delightfully simple and free. Every so often, lightly sand the cedar or rub it down, which opens up fresh wood and revives the aroma instantly. No need to buy anything new. And a fair warning, cedar is best at repelling moths from clean, stored clothing, so if you already have an active infestation, you'll want to launder or freeze the affected items first, then let the cedar keep the survivors away. Number 13. Peppermint oil. We'll finish with a trick that fights some of the creepiest intruders of all, mice and spiders, using a scent you probably find refreshing. Peppermint oil is a longtime favorite for a simple reason. What smells clean and pleasant to you is completely overwhelming to a rodent, and mice have an incredibly sensitive sense of smell that they depend on to navigate and find food. Flood their environment with strong menthol, and you essentially blind that sense, making your home a confusing, unappealing place to move in. Spiders get discouraged too, remember? Spiders effectively taste and smell through sensory organs on their legs, so crawling across a strongly scented surface is genuinely unpleasant for them, and they tend to avoid it. To put it to work, soak cotton balls in peppermint essential oil and tuck them wherever pests sneak in, under sinks, along baseboards, in the backs of cabinets, near doorways and gaps in the wall. Refresh them every week or so as the scent evaporates. Now, the honest truth that separates a smart homeowner from a disappointed one: peppermint is a deterrent, not an exterminator. It makes your home unwelcoming, but it won't plug the hole a mouse is already using, so pair it with the real fix. Seal up entry points, cracks, and gaps, and let the peppermint discourage anything thinking about trying. Cheap, non-toxic, and it leaves your house smelling like candy canes instead of poison. There you have it, 13 tricks that cost pennies and punch, way above their price tag. None of them ask you to breathe in a cloud of mystery chemicals, and a few genuinely beat the store-bought stuff head to head. Try one this week and watch the bugs pack their bags. If this saved you some cash, smash that like button and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.